Okay, so welcome to Finding Nirvana. I'm Angela.
And I'm Kristen.
And
And so,
ta-da, right?
girls, so I gotta ask you. We both know that this whole twin flame, divine counterpart, even like twin rays is like this big thing right now. It's
Right.
been like super hype. I mean, also on the twin flame journey. I know you're more on the divine counterpart journey. Um, how are we both feeling about the journey? Is it everything that, was, hyped up to be? Or like in reality, how are you feeling about, your situation with your divine soulmate right now?
You know, Thank you for asking because it's actually, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
You were actually the person who completely opened my eyes to any of this. I had no idea what a divine feminine, you're talking about DF and DM, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Twin flames. I'm like, okay, she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And then, as you started to really open my eyes and my heart, it was like literally a whole world, a whole new world, if I dare quote Aladdin. But it's been an absolutely interesting, awe-inspiring, beautiful, an extremely painful and exhausting roller coaster
Mm,
for me. Um, and right now I am in a phase where I'm having to just choose me. And, we talk about this often, and I'm always checking in with you. It's it's essentially about learning to choose you and put you first because as I have learned from you over the years, it's about really seeking everything that you've ever sought outside of ourselves, seeking it within and knowing that it is within. And in the Bible, it literally says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and everything else will be given unto you. And then Jesus
mm,
literally says the kingdom of heaven is within. So that is literally saying go first and go within first. Like seek yourself, seek your God self first, seek God, which
mm,
is so interesting. And it's come kind of full circle for me in that aspect where it's like, I love this man so much, but and I will give him my hand as long as he's willing to grab it and like help himself. But if it comes at the cost of him pulling me under too, I can't. So that's where I am currently. And as much as it hurts my heart, I had to break essentially my own heart to just pull away from him for a bit, you know, um, and pray and remain steadfast in my faith, honestly, and my trust. And
mm,
now, growing up in the church, now the words that I grew up listening to mean more to me, and I understand them at a whole different level than I ever did as a child or even as a young adult. Like, do you trust me? Can you still just let go and let God, like you're always saying, right? Can you do that and just
mm.
fully know within that it's fine. It's going to be fine because you already know exactly what it is that's in store for you. So that's where I am. What about you?
Girl, I mean, you said a great mouthful. I feel I'm in a similar like revelation point as you are currently.
Hmm.
And like you said, you reminded me that those words that we grew up with in the church, and maybe even getting away from the church and getting more into like trying to experience those words maybe through just life itself. I mean, I took a period where this is actually how I met my twin flame. I took a period where I was like, you know what, I think I'm ready to let go of whatever religious beliefs I have, just so that I can let life and God show me organically like what's real. I I had a lot of different interesting experiences, a lot of, there were some traumatic experiences with family, with relationships. I mean, with people that I thought were friends when I went out on my travels and I started to like physically try to seek God on this solo journey of just traveling from like DC to LA. And I did that alone. And there was a lot of testing about trust and how do you know who to trust and discerning and how do you be autonomous?
Mm-hmm.
How do you basically survive and thrive? And it was like anytime I thought I had some level of certainty about something or somebody, it was like the rug would get pulled up from underneath me again. And then I would be left in this faith walk, the one that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't expect to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So when as in regards to the twin flame journey, I was right before I met my twin, I was in this toxic relationship where the guy was bipolar. And I had the test of like I had to endure that because of my financial situation. We were living together, and in the beginning everything was great. It was like, hey babe, how was yoga? He was very much a different person than the one that he ended up being when we started living together. And it
Right.
was through that experience, and I know God allowed me to go through that because it was testing and showing me how much I could take, like how much, I was being molded. I was being shown how much tolerance, strength, courage. And then after you go through all of that, like being worn down, you get wisdom from it to not go down that route again,
Right. Yeah.
so but it wasn't, I'll say this, like most people have the experience of not having the best, lover or a romantic partner, you don't see the signs or you don't see them turning out to be something different than what they originally portrayed. And even if you have intuition, even if you have discernment, even if you have, a close relationship with God, sometimes, allows us to go through these experiences just so that we can become stronger in our soul, so that we can be molded into, the best version of ourselves, the highest version of ourselves. Usually it takes going through some kind of adversity to be truly molded, so it was like I went through so many times in my life where I had to go through something like that was crazy to me, but it tested my inner boundaries, it
Mm-hmm.
tested my outer boundaries, it
Mm-hmm.
tested me and showed me what I was made out of. And I feel like, God is always showing me that. So in regards to the twin flame journey, it continued with that journey, that it was like it was a test of how much I'm made out of. I mean, you could go through a depression on this journey, you could be in a euphoria on this journey, you could sometimes be it can level out after years of finally getting to a balance of both of those, and it could be boring, which is great. But in the same breath, it's like, are you still growing though? So then the question arises, we have these titles for what these different partners are. Is it a divine counterpart? Is it a twin flame? Is it a twin ray? Is it a life partner? I mean, and then there's like supposedly 4 different divine relationships, that you can get into, when you are supposedly chosen, for this kind of a life journey.
Right.
It's like you get 4 chances at taking a stab at it. Like who, like who are you going to be able to not lose yourself in, and still grow together with that person while still growing closer towards God. It's like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's this test. So after I got out of that relationship with the guy who was bipolar, and I learned, by the way, I learned so much from him, um, of like physically, health. You know, there was a silver lining in being involved with him, because everything that he did, I had to do too. So I learned his way, and I was very disciplined. And a lot of the ways that he wanted me to be was related to, how to stay high vibe, how to heal yourself, how to heal yourself from tension all throughout the body. So we were giving each other these deep tissue massages every day, and there was so much pain involved with that. And this is right after, girl, this is right after I had met up with you in Las Vegas.
Oh, yes.
It was right after that, a couple months after that, that I had, met him, and we,
Wow.
cohabitated. And um it, I just came off of a bodybuilding journey. Of course I had lumps and bumps and tension and all this thickness,
Right.
and so
Absolutely.
you can imagine the active release therapy we were doing on each other was so much pain. But then I got so lean, following everything that he had shown me. I got in the leanest I think I've ever gotten. And there was so much discipline involved with that. There was, we did a lot of heat therapy. I mean, even when we moved to LA together, it was like the summertime. He had to have the heater on and us wearing our hoodies, and it was already 85 degrees outside, and it was 85 degrees
Oh,
inside the vehicle. So we were always sweating, and we were all, it was
oh.
like there were so many herbs involved. There was so much heat involved. There was so much deep tissue massage. There was so much cayenne pepper and I mean, people would think we were crazy,
Right.
but
Well, side note, we met through bodybuilding. Just this is a side note. This is how Kristen and I met on a bodybuilding journey. And yeah, the we had reconnected when in 2014
14,
when
yeah.
I did my last competition. Okay, go ahead.
And 2014 was the year I decided to leave the East Coast and, my family, and do my own journey. And along the way I met my bipolar ex, and
Mm,
in that there was some good that came out of having to go through the fire of him. And mind you, a lot of him was fire. It really was. I mean, the cayenne pepper, the heat, all of that.
right.
I was literally going through a fire with him. And then his anger and his rage. I mean, I had fire probably from all angles. And then spiritually, he made us only listen to Bob Marley because it was
Oh,
tuned
okay.
to 432 hertz.
Got it.
So so my body was already being prepped to like elevate vibrationally, and I did, even though he brought me so low. And one girl pointed out how she could see this tension in my chest. There was this part of my chest where it looked like something was protruding out, because it felt like I was, it
Wow.
was like stuff that I wanted to say, that I felt too restrained to say because he was controlling or he would be angry. I mean,
Mm,
there's parts of yourself that you could go numb to and not even realize that you're changing, because you're around somebody where you can't fully like be yourself because you're too busy be
yes.
following them,
Yes.
But all in all, in the midst of realizing I wanted to break up with him and try and find ways out of that situation, I finally stumbled upon um, my so-called twin, when it was actually a couple of weeks, but now that we're going back to the Bible again, it was a couple of weeks after my bipolar ex, or soon to be ex, said out loud to like a guy that was coming to do maintenance work on the part of the house that me and him lived in. And he said the guy said something about the Bible. And then my boyfriend at the time said that book enslaved us and did this and did that. And I was hearing him, and I was like, man, I think he went too hard on this guy though too, because that guy looked like both me and my bipolar ex were both melanated, and so was the maintenance guy. So I felt like, I think he went too hard on him, and everybody's got their own beliefs. So I didn't say much. But it was subconsciously in me that, I don't know, I think there's something. I was mainly searching for God on my whole journey, like, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like I was trying to find God in a book anymore. I wanted God to show himself, herself, itself to me, through my experiences. So I had some level of consciousness that when I left home, I'm looking for myself, I'm looking for God in me, as well as I'm looking for God in the experiences that would be shown to me, because I was so sheltered. My parents were so like controlling and trying to like keep me in a certain place or in a certain mindset, that I was really trying to break free from all of that. And then I broke free into all of that, into somebody else controlling. So finally, when I met my twin, I just happened to bump into one of the other housemates in the house that me and my ex had lived in, and she invited me to like meet my twin, and told me so much about him and how they were doing Bible study,
Mm.
and how they have this cute little Bible study group, and they were doing the Bible study to question everything. So
Oh,
it was a Bible study that I was intrigued by, because I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor, and they were heavily involved, and everybody was pretty heavily religious. My mom and my dad, I mean. So I wanted something. I wanted to see something different. I wanted to learn something different, and I wanted it to really touch my soul. Whatever it was, I didn't want indoctrination. I wanted proof, and I wanted to feel something more
right.
than just traditional stuff. the customs and the acts. Oh, every Sunday we do this, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So my twin ended up being the Bible study leader. And I remember the first time I met him, it was like, you feel a kind of vibe and you're almost frozen for a little bit. And then, I felt a little shy and I felt butterflies and I felt energies I hadn't felt before, and at the time I'm a pretty reserved person. So I really tried to push those feelings down. Like, no, no, I'm still dealing with somebody, and, I don't know this guy's situation either. And I wanted to be respectful. So I really enjoyed the Bible study group though. And me and the other girl who invited me, she even shared my twin's book with me. He had published a book that was Learning to Unlearn, and it was a beautiful book just about, everything you go through in life that you were told or taught. It's about unraveling that and seeing what's actually true for you. So it was like he was on a similar journey to me, which is what basically the journey I was trying to live out. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was, I mean, I could go into more detail, but it was definitely an electrifying um, experience with my twin. It was, I could tell that it was me in another person's body, but I didn't quite know how to put that when I first met him. But we would meet up at the coffee shop and just talk for hours. The same coffee shop that we would have Bible study at. Me and him would meet and just chit chat. And and he was going through some stuff and he would confide in me, and I was going through some stuff, and I would confide in him. So, and shortly after that, I probably maybe a few weeks after that, after meeting him, I broke up with my toxic boyfriend, and I was willing to do anything to get out of that, even if I had to sleep in my car for a while. I was willing to do that because I just needed to get away from him. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. But all in all, to answer your question, it's been a long journey. It's been 8 years later now, and I'm still, actually 9 years now, and I'm still on the journey with my twin. I don't know if we can put time limits on it. I think the purpose is for you to really come into the knowingness of who you truly are, to never compromise yourself, to really stand on yourself, really become as authentic and as autonomous as possible. And I think when God sees that you've really truly done that, then I think whoever's really for you, if it's not your twin, that person will meet you, or your twin will rise also and meet
Hmm.
you and do the work. And I mean, God works in mysterious ways. It can be lots of
Absolutely.
different girl twists and turns. And one thing I found in my life is like my heart will really be set on one thing, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll get like this curveball or this surprise that maybe, you know, it's like maybe I should have looked at more than just that one thing that I had my heart set on. It's like,
Hmm.
it's like God is like, you want
Absolutely.
that, but I have this for you instead. And
Right.
it's not until you go the other
Right.
direction that you realize, oh, I see why I was supposed to go this way instead.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying twins and divine counterparts aren't who you're meant to be with. I don't know.
Right. And like, it's just like I said the other day when we were talking about this, I wholeheartedly believe, regardless of any titles, names, soulmate, twin flame, karmic, whatever, Joe Blow, if you can make it work with anyone, it doesn't matter what your signs are, it doesn't matter if your moon aligns, like when it all comes down to it, it's basically you and that person not giving up on one another and willing to work and willing to grow together and change and go with the ebb and the flow, regardless of who, what, when, where, why. It's
Yeah,
all about that. It's just the willingness to not give up.
absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes, when I think about my person and how I was in the past, and sometimes how I can still slightly be this way, I remember that saying that, like if you're ever trying to hold onto sand and you close your fist, what happens with the sand? The sand still escapes, and it
Hmm.
escapes faster. And I think about that, this journey sometimes like that, because you can feel so enmeshed with that person.
Yes.
And it's like, man, I just want to hold on, but and they're always trying to get away though. It's like
Hmm.
that of too many times it's either the feminine that will have a moment of being avoidant, or it's the masculine that have a moment of being avoidant. And sometimes we do it internally and they do it externally, where, they'll be always trying to run, whenever they feel that they have to be more emotionally or relationally responsible, and then sometimes we may be trying to run whenever that's like, oh, I see, it's like I'm starting to see chips at the, chips in this, person.
Right.
Like, I don't know about it, and maybe that's normal for any relationship, that when you start to see cracks and, like, that the person is less than perfect, you start to, doubt can grow. But
Right. And I'm also, like you just said a moment ago, I'm starting to also realize that this kind of spiritual walk is not meant for everybody. It's
oh,
really not.
no, it's not. No, no, it's definitely.
And when I first got on this path, I was like, okay, it's my job to help everybody wake up and walk on this path. And no, it's actually not. It's not at all. And it's so interesting. And I remember, yeah, I think it was I don't know, it was a video that I saw somewhere. I don't remember who it was, but she mentioned something about the divine feminine. We kind of have to heal at a soul level, and then it's the divine masculine that has to heal on a 3D level in order for us to kind of, I guess, meet in the 5D. I don't know. I didn't exactly get the ins and the outs, but the overall arching theme on that was, and it kind of dawned on me. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, like, I guess the masculine does also have to have soul growth and a soul healing, but materialistically, like, is it just in the 3D? So that means, like, they have to kind of like release their attachment to form more than we do, or what do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and it reminds me of a conversation that I had years back on a Facebook Live. And you're hitting on that, and the different ways that the masculine and the feminine have to grow, and what parts they have. The divine masculine can be, 3D, yet the way that they process emotions can be very feminine. The way that they approach
Mm,
relationships can be very feminine.
yeah.
They can typically be the ones that are running, because it's like they're running from their inner self, right?
Yes.
And then we could be the ones that are, always running to our inner self, and that makes them want to run. It's like we force each other to face either our 3D world that may feel like that we might feel somewhat insecure about, and we
Mm,
force them to face their inner world that they may feel insecure about. So then it can
right.
be a series of running and chasing. But yeah, the divine feminine is more the inner world, and the divine masculine is more the outer world. Now, mind you, we both have feminine and masculine in us. It's just that the way that the world is set up, it has you wanting to pick one side over, it has you wanting to pick one side and neglect the other. That's the word, instead of blending both. Because in order to truly be whole, you would have to accept, your inner yin and your inner yang. You can't dissect yourself. There's parts of you that's masculine, there's parts of you that's feminine with anybody.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I think we live in a world that wants to always just go one way instead of incorporating all that's there. And I think really that's the point of duality. It's not trying to see it necessarily always that it's so black and white and dark and light, and day and night, even though those things exist, maybe just seeing it as it is continuous time, or this is still a whole person. And sometimes you can be aggressive, or sometimes you can be, passive. It's like
Hmm.
we have, just like how we have lower chakras, we have higher chakras, and it's all about incorporating that into oneness, and that oneness where it's elevating you to a higher level. It's not necessarily about, like, even if somebody is angry, it's not about using that anger to hurt, but using that anger to possibly facilitate some kind of new thing. For example, anger can motivate somebody to do something constructive. Like if you see something that's wrong in society, and I'm just going to use basic, words. If you see something that's wrong in society, and let's say you get really passionate about it, and then maybe the anger inside you turns into a passion for wanting to change that thing instead. So then
Right.
maybe you get to work and trying to start a nonprofit because something made you upset because of the injustice of it. So I think the Most High gave us these, different lower level, so called lower level energies, really to work together for truly our good, and I
Right.
don't know how many of us really truly understand that, because we have been groomed and indoctrinated in such a dissecting and fragmented kind of way, when there's a higher truth in everything, it seems, and I know it's not easy to always get there. And I don't think anybody should really force themselves. I think the way we truly heal is really feeling and being authentic to what we truly feel in a moment, and not necessarily acting, but maybe releasing those emotions. Like if you feel angry, maybe allow yourself to cry if you need to, because what they say is like anger is just stale hurt, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That turns into resentment. Is just allowing yourself to be honest about what it is that hurt you and
Mm-hmm.
what felt like it was an injustice, and kind of releasing that. But this journey is highly reflective of trauma, wounds, past hurts and pains that are unresolved. And then this person is a mirror that can trigger all of the stuff you thought you were over, and can trigger and trigger and trigger until you really just purge all of that out. And then it's really through that purging that you truly start to become more of your higher self. So it is, like we said before, it's not a journey for everybody. But if you have been divinely selected or elected to go on this journey, God bless you and
Yeah.
best of luck.
Absolutely. Go with God. Absolutely.
Well, girl, let me ask you this.
All right.
In
We have
all of
9
the
minutes left.
Okay, cool. In all of the like emotional turbulence and ups and downs in your relationship with your person, I noticed through and through you're so faithful to him. What would you say has been the thing that has really kept you going, and has been the thing that has kept you from being broken by disappointments and setbacks or separations?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Oh, I've been heartbroken so many times, actually. But I honestly had to and there's actually many times where I was like, is this for real? Like, maybe this is all just bullshit. Like, maybe I'm literally losing my mind, which has been a thought many times. Um, but I was very, like, just down and out, broken so many times. I'm sure I've called you crying. Um, just a lot of, you were actually a huge help. Um, in me just kind of pulling myself up by my bootstraps. And I always it's been such a self-reflective journey for me, because as much pain and stuff like that that I've endured, I see myself in him, and I see my unhealed self in him to such a level that it's blaringly obvious. And that's what has kept me going, because people do change. I am a walking, talking example, because I was a total piece of shit. I was
No.
so cold and calculated and callous and shut off. And I did exactly to a T everything that he has done as well. And
Hmm.
for a long time. And so what's been interesting is just the stark contrast and how quickly I transformed from being just devastated and knowing that I was such an asshole for so long to so many people, and having that kind of my come to Jesus moment, like my awakening, um, to kind of like shifting who I was almost completely within about 9 months, maybe six, with daily introspective outlook, daily checking myself. Always, like, I'm always going in, it's all introspective now, like, whatever happens, I'm like, "Okay, what am I doing within? What is it that's within me that's resulting in this? What is it that is in my self-concept? What is it that's deep within my subconscious that's attracting this? Is what have I done to create this? And what is it that I need to heal? Which one of the 7 divine mirrors is this a reflection of?" which
Mm.
I mean we can talk about in our next podcast. Um, but I do want to ask you, since you've named them all, the differences between and what they are, because you mentioned twin flame, you mentioned counterparts, and you mentioned something else, a solar ray or a
I know, twin ray and life partner. Yeah,
twin
twin ray.
ray and a life partner. A life partner is basically I assume, just a life partner, like a regular.
Yeah, somebody who would share a lot of, your common beliefs and, possibly the way that you would raise your children, the way that you would do life,
Okay.
the way that you would collaborate in life. And it wouldn't be so deeply spiritual, but it would be somebody that would be committed to you enough to be your true life partner and to go down this journey with you and walk the rest of your life with you. It is intended, for these relationships really to last forever if they could,
Mm-hmm.
even I would say even after transitioning, I it is my feeling that your soul would be still be connected to this person because it is a divine, relationship. You're not meant to separate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, the twin ray, it's similar to a twin flame, but it's also the letting go. There's more of a letting go, and because it is more reflective on, what wounds you still need to heal from. But it is the second one down from the twin flame. Your twin flame is supposedly somebody who has a part of your soul in their body too,
Mm.
because the legend is that at one point, possibly at the very beginning of time, they even say that twin flames were around when the Most High created the earth, that we were supposedly, our souls were there. This is very legendary, and then what
Mm-hmm.
happened was, you know, we had this whole soul inside of us, meaning you had the divine masculine and feminine energies, as well as you had the feminine and masculine organs, physical organs, all inside one body. But something really traumatic happened. It could have been, whatever truth is truly behind the whole Adam and Eve story, where man fell. But it was so deeply traumatic
Mm.
that one, being split into two, and now we have duality.
Okay.
From there, duality flowed. So it was, feminine, a woman who considers herself mostly feminine, and a man who considers himself masculine and has the masculine organs, and the woman has the female organs. But at
Got it.
one point we were whole, and now I think this whole journey really is just, the way God has it designed is for you to, in spite of that, for you to still find find a way, if you haven't already, to be whole, autonomous, complete, with or without your twin. Your twin is just, I think, there to remind you of all that you are, all that you can become, and also the potential of working on yourself so much that you could attract them as well, from being as whole as you are. But at that point of being as whole as possible, I feel there's an element where it wouldn't even matter whether you could attract them or not. There would be a part of yourself that would be so whole that, you know, you would be so fulfilled just on yourself alone. And it's in that conundrum, it's like it's in
Mm-hmm.
that space that God would allow, because it would make sense, that you don't need somebody to complete you. Um, you've already completed yourself. But if it's a true divine counterpart, I would imagine God will allow you to come together finally with that person because you've already evolved into your highest self
Right.
or something like it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of the journey. At least and through my eyes. So I'm humbly saying that through my eyes, because I know everybody's experience is different, everybody's truth is different, and this journey can be complicated. It can definitely break you and build you back up. Um, and I've seen you, Angela, just grow so much, and then I admire how easy it is for you to manifest, and also how you're faithful. You have said that this journey has broken you, but it's like, where?
Oh,
Like, where because you still I will say you're still one of the most positive people I know. You're still one of the most pure-hearted people I know. And you're authentic, with whatever areas, you feel you need to work on. And it's like as soon as you say it, it's like you don't need to work on it anymore. That's how I feel when you share with me,
wow.
and I'm pretty hard on myself, as well. But I also see that, this journey can show you that, you know, t- um, focusing, and I'm not saying you do this, I'm just saying in general, focusing maybe too much on what we think we need to work on can be like self-judgmental. It's the journey is about freeing yourself, admitting is the first step in whatever you need to work on, but really, if we're focusing and keeping our eyes on the prize,
Absolutely.
on how great we can become and how great we are already, that all of the other stuff we feel we need to work on can fade away because you're too busy focusing on, how self-loving you are, how kind you are to yourself, how compassionate you are to yourself, and then that flows out to everybody else, and while still being accountable, in a gentle kind of way, because
Hmm.
this journey really can be rough.
Yes.
So, and I think that's important. You have this other person that can trigger you into feeling really, really bad and shitty about yourself, so
Yeah. Yeah.
so I would say everybody to take it easy on that part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's actually going to cut out, but that was amazing. Until next time.
We will talk to you guys soon, and I hope you enjoyed this episode with